Hello, and welcome to the webinar titled How to Increase Your Credit Score. My name is Doris Baker. I work for Consolidated Credit, one of the nation's largest and oldest credit counseling agencies. For more than 2 decades, our nonprofit has literally helped millions of Americans get out of debt and balance their budgets, which means they freed up money for retirement savings. So, what you'll learn today are the tips and tricks we've used to help more than 6 million Americans over the past 26 years. There will be no need to take notes because after the webinar, we will send you a PDF version of this presentation. Also, feel free to email any questions that you may have, which will be provided with the email address at the end of the presentation. But just to do a overhaul, here is a list of what we do. We provide financial counseling, financial education, debt management services in regards to credit cards, pre-purchase home counseling, post-purchase home counseling, foreclosure prevention, and reverse mortgages. Here's a bit of history for you. Monitoring credit behavior has been around for as long as merchants have extended credit to others. Over time, technology has contributed to the speed at which a credit grantor can make a determination as to whether or not to extend credit to a given individual. But the concepts developed in the mid to late 1800s still form the basis of today's credit decisions. Basically, a credit score is a number that summarizes a consumer's credit risk and can change due to factors. Those factors are based on things you do and your behaviors. Now, the whole point of this webinar is how to increase your credit score. The first and most obvious thing to do is change. I just told you that your credit score is a 3 digit number that changes due to certain factors, and that those factors are based on the things that you do and your behavior. So, with that being said, the first thing to do would be to change those behaviors. I know that that is probably easier said than done. But as important as credit is to our lives, then change is what we will have to do. So if you know that you have used your credit cards almost to the limit, then that would have to be something that you need to change. We're going to get into what factors into your credit score in more detail in the next slide. And one of those things is high balances close to the limit. Going back to bad credit card spending, if you realize that you can't handle it, freeze your credit cards in a block of ice in the freezer so that you won't be tempted. And if you have a balance, you can now work on paying that off. As you can see, the largest chunk of what makes up your credit score is your payment history. But you also have to pay attention to the 30%, which is amounts owed, and then that 10%, that is of types of credit in use. That 40% is also very important in impacting your credit score. That represents how a person uses their credit. And the 30% amounts owed, they want to know or see how much is too much, meaning how much is owed as a percentage of the total available credit limit. That would be on each account in, in total amount compared to total available credit. and that's by the type of credit. They want to see the number of accounts with balances. Types of credit, that 10%, is there a healthy mix of revolving and installment debt? They want to see, and they are the credit grantors, want to see the number of national bank credit cards, and these are usually issued by banks. They want to see the number of installment debts, such as car loans, compared to revolving debts, which would be considered retail cards. Now, you have to remember that a FICO score takes all of those factors into consideration, not just one or two. The importance of any factors depends on the overall information in the consumer's credit file. The levels of importance shown in the diagram are for the general population and will have different effects on different credit profiles. What's not included in your credit score? Number one is race, color, religion, national origin, sex, and marital status. Secondly, would be your age. Third, salary, occupation, or employer. And four, where you live. This is just a general idea of how certain factors will affect your credit score. These numbers are not by any means exact. It all depends on the algorithmic equation that's used. According to Equifax.com, credit scoring is as follows: excellent being 760 to 850, very good 725 to 759, good is considered between 660 and 724. Fair is between 560 and 659. Poor 280 to 559. When you pull your credit report from annualcreditreport.com, you will get only your credit report and not the score. You can obtain your score from a number of different channels, but it's more than likely that you will have to pay. You have to remember also that before you focus on what your score is, you're going to want to go over your report with a fine tooth comb because the information on your report directly affects your score. There are a few credit card companies that offer you a free score with your account, and we'll see those on your next slide. Now, again, this is a lot of information to take in today. You don't have to take notes. All of this will be provided to you after the webinar. That chart shows a few credit card companies that offer credit scores to their clients. Also, American Express, Bank of America, Chase with a certain card, and First National do as well. American Express, your Experian FICO score is available anytime you log into your account online. Bank of America, you get access to your FICO score with your consumer credit card. Barclay Card US, your TransUnion FICO score is available anytime you log into your account online. Citi provides your Equifax FICO scores, and they are available to you anytime you log into your account online. Chase, customers with a certain card get free access to their FICO scores. Discover, your TransUnion FICO score appears on each of your monthly billing statements. First National, Your Experian FICO score is available anytime you log into your account online. Now, you have to remember that the score you are getting from the specific credit card is far more likely than not one particular credit bureau. As you can see, that with Discover it's TransUnion, and with Citi it's Equifax, and etc. But at least you will be getting an idea of where you stand as far as your credit score is concerned. You can always pay a fee and pull your score at myfico.com. Next, we're going to talk about credit reports and the information that's found on credit reports. There are five information zones, and we're going to go through each one of them now. The first is personal information, and this is compiled from the credit applications that you have filled out and normally includes your name, current and recent addresses, social security number, date of birth, and current and previous employers. Next, you'll see your credit scoring results in summary. This section contains the summary of all of the factors that make up your credit score, called reason coded. This shows the major contributing issues that will help explain to the consumer why their score may be less than perfect. The next area, trade lines and derogatory accounts. The bulk of your credit report consists of details about credit accounts that were opened in your name or that list you as an authorized user. The account details, which are supplied by the creditor, include the date the account was opened, the credit limit, or the amount of the loan. It includes the payment terms, the balance, and a history that show whether or not you've paid the account on time. Closed or inactive accounts, depending on the manner in which they were paid, stay on the report 7 to 10 years from the date of their last activity and sometimes indefinitely. Next up on information provided on your credit report is the inquiry section. The three credit bureaus record an inquiry whenever your credit report is generated for another party, such as a lender or service provider. Inquiries remain on your report for up to 2 years, but only impact your score for 1 year. And lastly, as far as information zones of your credit report, is public records. In this section, you will find public records obtained from a government source, such as a court of law. And these would include liens, includes bankruptcies, and overdue child support as well. Most public records stay on the credit report for 7 years, except for bankruptcies, which stay on for up to 10 years from the date of dismissal or discharge. So now you have your credit report and understand how long information can be reported. You're ready to create a strategy for building better credit. And you're going to begin with the 4 steps that are listed on the slide before you. Step one, you're going to fix mistakes. Now, it's not unusual to find wrong or outdated accounts on your credit report. You may want to check for the following items as well: accounts that don't belong to you, incorrect balances, duplicate accounts, old accounts. If you find items on your report that are inaccurate or do not belong to you, you are going to want to dispute those items. Check out ftc.gov for sample dispute letters. Contact the credit reporting agency listing incorrect information, the credit grantor that is reporting it, or both. It's recommended going to credit bureaus first, but you'll have to check with all three bureaus and dispute mistakes through each one that has the wrong information. Put your dispute in writing, describing the problem, including your documentation to support your dispute. Credit bureau or credit grantor generally get back to you within 30 days of filing the dispute. As I stated a couple of minutes ago, you can and should dispute items that are not yours or that are inaccurate. You can either write to them or you can do the dispute online. If you're going to send a letter, you need to make sure that you mail them certified return receipt. We are in the technology age, and doing everything online is easier and more convenient. Each credit bureau has their own website, and on each site has the option for you to dispute. As you can see on the picture on the screen, it says get started in 3 easy steps. And believe me, they are easy. Once you have your report and you have the accounts you want to dispute, the system will walk you through it. If you It will still have an impact on your credit worthiness, but the impact becomes less over time, but only if you now pay your bills on time. So with that being said, we're going to let time heal the wounds as you see there on your screen. Just begin to pay your bills on time. Sometimes negative information is accurate, but due to, say, unusual circumstances, such as loss of income or reduction of income, medical reasons, divorce, etc. If you've had a good payment history but fell behind due to extenuating circumstances and you are now back on your feet and paying your bills on time, you may want to ask your creditors to re-age your accounts or essentially delete those previous late payments. Build positive new credit references. The best thing you can do to rebuild your credit is use credit carefully and always, should I say always, pay your bills on time. Consumers who are proactive about rebuilding their credit after problems have occurred can see significant improvement in as little as a year or two. Here are some tips. Lenders will want to see at least a couple of recent credit accounts paid on time. If you still have open accounts, use them periodically for things you would buy anyway. Then make sure to pay the bill well before the due date. Carrying balances and paying interest is not necessary for rebuilding good credit. If you don't currently have any credit cards, it may be a good idea to get one. Now, avoid guaranteed approval cards that cost a couple of $100s in fees. A better bet is a legitimate secured card where you place a security deposit with the lender in exchange for a major credit card with a modest credit limit. Shop for one at www.bankrate.com. You can also shop myfico.com or creditcards.com. And lastly, never pay a bill late. Now, if you were to go to myfico.com, you would see that they discuss in detail how secured cards can help you to establish or reestablish good credit. So, a secured credit card is a card that has its credit limit secured by a deposit that you make into a special savings account. Your available limit is based on how large a deposit that you make, anywhere from 300 up to $2,000 and some may be even higher. You would have to find out from the lender because if you can have a higher limit, then I would hope that you are paying your other bills as well. Remember that 35% from earlier? The money that you deposit into your savings account for your credit limit is there just in case you happen to default on your payments. Please remember that you still have to make your payments every month when you use the secured card. If you are looking for a secured card, the first place to start would be your bank or credit union. Ask if they have them and also ask if they report to all three credit bureaus. And as I said before, you can check online at sites like creditcards.com or even nerdwallet.com to see who else offers secured credit cards. Let's talk about credit builder loans. Now, a credit builder loan is a small loan made by some credit unions and banks in order to help you build credit. You can check your local credit unions or banks to see who may offer these services. In most cases, you need to have an account with them for a certain amount of time with no overdrafts, etc. Not all credit builder loans are the same. In some cases, it's not an actual loan where you get the money. It may be an account through the bank or credit union where you make monthly payments towards that account. And at the end of your term, they will issue you a unsecured credit card for the amount. It could be anywhere from 300 to 600 depending on the institution. In other cases, you get the money from the bank and you make the monthly payments until paid off. This is also a great way to build or rebuild by showing on time monthly payments and a mix of credit if you happen to have credit or store cards already. Now, being issued credit, you have certain responsibilities, and let's talk about those responsibilities. Borrow only what you can repay. You want to read and understand your credit card contract. You want to pay your debts promptly. Remember, never a late payment. Notify your creditor if you cannot make payments. Avoid buying on impulse. Report lost or stolen credit cards promptly. Never give your card number over the phone unless you initiate the call or are certain of the identity of the caller. Here are some tips for using your credit wisely. Follow your agreement. Pay your credit cards according to the terms of that agreement. Pay online. Consider paying your credit cards online or over the telephone to avoid being late with your payments and incurring late fees. Also, if you can set up auto pay for your accounts, that way you won't forget and you would never get a late charge. Keep your balances low. Do not charge anything more on the card until you have paid off your account balance. Keep your balance at approximately 10% of less of your available credit. Read all important information. Always read your statements and all information sent by your creditor, as it may be very important changes to your account. We continue with tips for using credit wisely. Don't skip payments. You'll be charged late fees and penalties as well as damage your credit. Don't go over your credit limit. Exceeding that limit or getting close to it will damage your credit history and lower your credit score on top of incurring fees. Minimize your use of cash advances. This is usually a very expensive source of funds. You will find that your interest rate on cash advances is usually higher than your APR on your credit card regular purchases. So let's try to avoid or minimize. But my best advice is to avoid cash advances whenever you can. And lastly, don't buy credit card protection plans. This tends to be highly priced and mainly serves to generate big profits for credit card issuers. Alternative credit scoring is a great option for those with limited or no credit or even bad credit. This is a way to help build non traditional credit. This report is not associated with the three credit bureaus, but it is being used more widely now for things that your traditional credit is pulled for. Many lenders are using this for deciding factors before issuing credit. What can be added to these files are the following: rent, utilities, car insurance, cell phone, gym memberships, your monthly subscriptions to like Netflix and Hulu, etc. Now, PRBC is an alternative credit score site, so you can check that out in your leisure. So, ID theft. Approximately 15 million United States residents have had their identities used fraudulently or have them used fraudulently each year, with financial losses totaling upwards of $50 billion. Now, I live in Florida, which is the identity theft capital of the United States. This is why we stress the importance of pulling your credit report and going over it with a fine tooth comb. Because if there are items on there that are not yours, you may have been compromised. You want to make sure your personal data is reporting accurately. So you're going to pay close attention to your address, the absence or inclusion of middle initials, things of that sort. And as far as inquiries are concerned, you always want to make sure any inquiries that appear on your credit report that you indeed did apply for credit with these businesses. You want to enroll in credit monitoring, okay? And you also want to be very careful with your information. Always remember that it takes time to build and or rebuild credit. Remember that it's not a, a overnight process. You have to change your behaviors, and we know that changing your behavior takes time as well. No matter what the so called credit repair companies say, this is not an overnight process. Yes, some may see results faster than others because everybody's situation is different. Everyone's situation is unique. We'd like for you to take the opportunity to visit our website, consolidatedcredit.org, and there you will find interactive budgeting tools with personalized advice. You'll find an interactive debt calculator. You'll also find there comparison charts of how Americans spend money. It's very interesting to see how our peers spend money. And you would be able to receive a debt analysis quiz and also personal advice. You will have free downloadable PDF self help booklets, as well as you can sign up for our email newsletters that are filled with a plethora of information that I'm sure you would find beneficial. I would just like to thank you all again for attending this webinar, and I hope that you found it to be very informative. Please do not forget, if you have any questions or concerns, please use the number that's shown on your screen, or you can email us at fined@consolidatedcredit.org. Thank you again for joining us today, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much.